There's a video game called NieR Automata, and it can teach you how to live in a world devoid of meaning. Let me explain. Perhaps the best way to approach NieR Automata is as it were a myth, because that's what it feels like. Archetypal stories are like meta-stories. They're so distilled through generations and generations of passing on, the minutiae doesn't matter anymore. Everything not necessary for the story is filtered out. Non-essential details evaporate until only the marrow remains. Names, locales, settings, story arcs, personal relations, they are there to help us familiarize with the story, to make it relatable to us, the mere mortals who go through the drama. But they are not the focus. It's hard to relate with the idea of redemption or existential dread. You can't contend with the concept of hero's journey or what it means to be consumed by the spirit of Cain. There are too grand and complex ideas to contend with on an abstract level. What we can relate to is drama, characters and their stories. We can embody their spirits, as it were, as though they were vessels. Through them, we can grasp glimpses of the grand wisdom that resides underneath the stories we tell each other. NieR Automata is a myth about meaning, a myth about the spirit of humanity. NieR Automata's story takes us to the far future Earth amidst the 14th Machine War. The year is 11,000-something AD, and shit's hit the fan. Thousands of years ago, aliens came to Earth and war ensued, as per normal when aliens visit. Man fights alien and alien fights man. Aliens build robots to kill off man. Man builds sexy warrior androids with giant swords to kill robots. Aliens go into hiding. Mankind goes almost extinct and decides to take a vacation on the moon till the whole alien-robot war thing dies down. But then, the war simply doesn't end. The party goes on for thousands of years, aliens and mankind both in hiding, the robots and androids locked in an eternal proxy war for their long-gone masters. Our protagonists are 2B and 9S, android soldiers of Yoha, a special military group who have only one reason for existence: to fight for the glory of mankind. We conduct this proxy war through familiar and trusty action RPG mechanics. We hack and slash and RPG our way through the confined yet well-spaced open world. We do the questing, the side questing, the power upgrading, the XPing. We fight, we forward the plot. Everything's big. Intrigue, the stakes, the plot twists. But this game isn't about the story. It's the characters, the mental trauma they, and by proxy we, are ground through. It's a myth about the death of God. Shit gets deep, as the adage goes. NieR Automata reminds me of Neon Genesis Evangelion in that sense. A kinda uninteresting premise full of genre tropes. Teenagers who fight mystical aliens with big-ass robots. Nothing special there. But it's the exploration of non-traditional story beats and the subversion of genre tropes that make Evangelion so special. NieR Automata trades psychoanalytical themes and religious imagery for existentialism and dips the whole thing in torment and suffering, but it still manages the same magic trick as Neon Genesis Evangelion. It's deep, it grips. For a story of hypersexualized androids who kill robots with huge swords, things hit harder than they have any right to.
Everything that lives is designed to end. We are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. Is this a curse? Or some kind of punishment? I often think about the God who blessed us with this cryptic puzzle, and wonder if we'll ever have the chance to kill him. 5 sentences in, and we are already in Dayside territory.
The notion of killing God is a riff on Friedrich Nietzsche's famous words, "God is dead." This quote is often presented in popular culture as a joyous huzzah for the intellectual liberty of Western culture, a glee-filled proclamation for the great defeat of superstitious beliefs. "We've done it, the bearded bastard is finally dead, and good riddance." But to Nietzsche, the death of God was a feverish horror scene of existential proportions. He prophesied the rejection of our traditional moral axioms would set us on dark paths, to pendulum us between totalitarian ideologies and existential nihilism. In the light of the 20th century, it's hard to claim he was wrong. God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him, us, the murderers of all murderers, and we'll never find enough water to wash away the blood. Where do you go when God is dead? You're not some slave who's been released from the shackles of superstition and dogmatics, not in any real sense at least. You were never a slave. There's no freedom to be had here. You're a sled dog with no sled, a bee without a hive. God remains dead, the embodiment of meaning and the profound, the structure of existence. That isn't a religious statement. It's a human statement. What's the reason to go on in such a world? Without meaning, how to redeem the tragedy innate to life? Nietzsche believed the only way through this existential wasteland is to become as gods ourselves, to become the one who makes his own values, der Übermensch, the overman. This provides to be quite tricky, to put it mildly. The tragedy of existence can crush us under its weight with ease. We are fallible, finite, easily broken, rife with inconsistencies, untrue and unclear to others and ourselves. To put it bluntly, the world sucks, and so do we. Who is to say we even can create our own values, let alone values to live by? There's a reason this theme, deicide, is brought forward in the first couple sentences of the game. It's the main crux of the whole narrative, the creme de la creme of existential questions, the #1 hit on the billboard of nihilism. What's the fucking point? It's the question we ponder through the game's narrative. If your gods die by your hand or in the hands of others, where do you go from there? When the structures we built our world on crumble, what do we do? In the words of Nietzsche, what sorts of sacred games do we have to invent? Our mortal saving grace is we are finite, and the suffering we endure is marked with an expiration date. But what if you're not a mortal being to begin with? What if you're, for example, an android, an undying being, in the existential sense at least? Where the fuck do you go from there? Where will you find enough water to wash away the blood? The plot follows our android duo as they uncover the mysteries that surround recent auspicious machine behavior. After some busy work for the local resistance base, we hunt down a robot that seems different somehow. It's afraid, runs away, begs for mercy. After we chase the runaway through an abandoned housing complex, we happen across a disturbing scene.
Child. Child. Child.
What is this?
My love. My love.
Don't listen to them, 2B.
Together forever. Together forever. Carry me. Carry me.
They don't have any feelings. They're just imitating human speech. Let's take them out.
Feed me. Love.
It's quite something to see these weird critters behave in such a human fashion. Children who play house, willing but unable to grasp the full picture. Children which we proceed to hack into pieces. This is the first time NieR Automata tips its hand to us. The game has these specific scenes where it goes directly for your throat, and as you are at least somewhat invested in the characters, the narrative, and the whole robots search for meaning by imitating human consciousness thing, it becomes harder and harder to brush these tragedies aside. There are many ways to break the human spirit, and you get to witness them all. Dreams of family, love, nation, God, ideologies. The robots adopt these values in their endeavor to imitate humans. The narrative throws these dreams on a crash course with the world, and it never ends well. Here lies the problem. Without the limitude and the lack intrinsic to our existence, the robots can't understand man. Without disparity, there is no transcendence. Without death, everything is meaningless. It is the limited existence of man, the lack, that gives our world its meaning. Even through inhumane logic and objectivity, there's no escape from the ultimate truth of life. To exist as a human being is to be vulnerable to the lack and suffering inherent to existence. For most players, it's not the smooth ballerina-esque combat, the grand battles against colossal robots, nor the plot twists they take away from NieR Automata. It's these little scenes of crude beings who seek to embody the spirit of humanity that make the most long-lasting impressions. NieR Automata's reputation as a deeply philosophical and intellectually formidable game is somewhat misleading. Sure, Nietzsche, Pascal, Kierkegaard, Sartre, Hegel, Marx, de Beauvoir and their merry friends do come up, but only in a Easter egg fashion. A gentle nod to the players who are in the camp of the knowers be knowing. The game lays forward questions at the heart of existentialism, but doesn't set out to discuss, expand or dissect the works of the aforementioned philosophers. They act more like crests or emblems, strawmen to symbolize the values they represent. Religion, monarchies, pacifism, family, love, loyalty, everything is ground to dust. One by one, we watch these structures crumble and leave us bare naked in the dark. Kierkegaard pondered the individual's relationship to faith and God, so he's made a head of a zealous robot death cult. Simone de Beauvoir, a prominent feminist, is reimagined as a body-obsessed songstress driven insane by her need of validation through beauty and love. Pascal, a scholar of logic, utilitarianism and faith, is made into a pacifist robot whose naivety gets his people slaughtered. He abandons his ideals in the face of conflict, and the children under his care commit suicide when faced with the true horror of reality. Sartre was a giant douche, so he's reimagined as a pompous asshole with a top hat. It's easy to lose the forest from the trees if you set out to frame NieR Automata as a sort of dialectical treatise on existentialism. I don't think the game sets out to be particularly smart or philosophical. It doesn't wax lyrical, profess or take ideological stances. It is, first and foremost, a bombastic sci-fi romp with hyper-sexualized androids who kill robots with huge swords. But it is goddamn visceral. The profound rises from the emotional resonance, from the way the narrative seeks out our emotional pressure points. What makes us rejoice, suffer, to lose faith, and to go on nevertheless. We are constantly reminded of what makes us tick, and then the game leans on that hard. While you might not be a busty acrobatic warrior lady with two huge swords locked in an eternal proxy war against an hostile invading force, this story is still about you, about your existence and what its nature is like. And though you might not realize it, the hairs on your neck have taken notice. A robot pours oil over the broken pieces of a machine. A naive attempt to bring back his brother from the non-existence. Another hurdles himself from a cliff. He can't reconcile the nature of his own existence as a being created for endless war. One adorns itself with scavenged parts, corpses of both androids and robots alike. A wish to be loved as an individual, acquirable only through beauty. A pack of robots attack you, enraged. They declare revenge and retribution for their dead king. Some disconnect themselves from the hive mind-like network and lead a life of pacifism in a remote town outside the conflict zone. A colossal Goliath, murderer of tens of thousands, decides to terminate itself. He has learned the concept of sin and is unable to reconcile with the torment he's created. A group re-establishes an amusement park in order to spread joy and laughter to the war-torn world. In death we will become as gods, a robot declares as it hacks another to pieces. In the corner, one exclaims, "The will of God is of love and peace." Another one screams, terrified, "Why does God allow this horror to happen?" In the background, a group of robots stand before a pit of molten metal. "We must become gods," they cry, as they hurl themselves into the furnace. A group of children commit mass suicide when confronted with the murderous malice of their own kind. These themes are only relatable to us when they are given a dramatic context. These questions are not academic quandaries to mull over. They are by their nature existential. Our lot as humans is to be overwhelmed by these questions. This is the narrative crux of our villains, whom we meet after the carnal scene on the desert. And the only term in the English language that can do justice to their design is the anime as fuck bros. Adam and Eve respectively act as our main villains of the narrative. Adam, the firstborn, and Eve, born from Adam appropriately, are the next step in the machine race's evolution. Adam is the more composed, somber, and academic of the two. Eve represents the playful, chaotic energy of creation with his anime hair and goofy tribal tattoos. There is a cool anima, animus, chaos, order vibe here. The perfect being isn't a single being, but a union of impossible opposing characteristics. Light and dark, masculine and feminine. That's why there are two brothers. To be flawless is to be balanced by the union of opposites. The few scenes we get with Adam and Eve alone are some of the most heartfelt stuff NieR Automata has to offer. Sat across a lavish wooden table, they discuss the need to wear pants, why they should read books, and contemplate why apples were so important to mankind. Eve acts childlike, begrudged of his homework. He wants to play, to explore. After the day's work is done, promises Adam. They're not just brothers. They're father and son, a mother and daughter. Neither sees the other as lesser. They only prefer different aspects of existence. In the novelization of the story, Adam is distraught by the fact they've been cast into existence without a clear reason why. He refers to this sorry state as an act of hatred. Nevertheless, he's fascinated by mankind and tries to instill this thirst for knowledge to his brother the best he can. In the end, their story ends the same way as everyone else's does in NieR Automata. After the death of Adam and Eve, things go south in an unprecedented scale. The grand attack against the remaining robot forces fails. Yoha is compromised. The bunker is destroyed. 2B sacrifices herself to save 9S. She is corrupted by a hostile virus, and our heroes get separated during their escape. Shit has hit the fan. Here and now, 2B is for the first time in her existence finite, mortal. There is no more Yoha, no way to uplink her consciousness to safety. This is the body she will perish in. This is her body. Here, at the end of a dozen lifetimes, she's more human, more herself than she's ever been. Is she finally, on this last painful trek, in this limited state, a person and not just a mere being? There's a rhyme between the fates of Adam and 2B. Both embrace mortality, but for different reasons. Adam gave his immortality for knowledge, consumed by the notion he couldn't understand the spirit of humanity without existence in a similar finite state. He makes Fortune deal with death itself, his immortality, for this knowledge. Adam is granted what he searched for, what it is like to be human.
Is this death?
Eve's campaign for vengeance receives a similar end. At the end of this bridge, an ambush awaits. The only thing left for 2B is to go down with teeth unveiled. A Deus Ex Machina arrives in the form of A2, a complete stranger to us. 2B hands out her sword, and the POV is given to 9S. We arrive just in time. The earth quakes, 9S falls into the depths, and 2B is gone. As Adam's loss did Eve, 9S is driven insane by the loss of 2B. He sets on his own murderous crusade. But here lies the twist. Unbeknownst to any of them, 2B's sacrifice also thrusts A2 on a new path, the path of redemption, no matter how slight or slow. An old mythic idea swims beneath these ripples. The pride becomes before the fall. Sacrifices out of pride give birth to ruin. Sacrifices out of love and compassion give birth to a chance for a better world.
Take care of everyone for me. Take care of the future, A2.
For the remainder of the game, alongside 9S, we now control A2, a complete stranger to us. After this terraforming event, the story breaks out of the linear structure and opts out for an episodic one. 2B's death serves as a narrative cross-section for both 9S and A2. The rest of the story is more or less build up towards their inevitable confrontation. A2 is barely a character. Though she has a backstory and some motivations, they are as bare bones as it gets. Revenge, kill all the machines. She's agitated, rude to everyone and irritated by everything. The type of person who says "God damn it" to herself, scoffs all the time and remembers to state clearly when something is starting to piss her off.
All this goddamn sand is starting to piss me off.
She's a narrative tool, stitched together from an assortment of very familiar tropes of the badass with the tragic past sort. She's a direct parallel arc to that of 9S's. At this point, 9S has lost everyone and everything he held dear. 2B, his great love and comrade in arms, is gone. Yorha is destroyed. All his fellow soldiers are dead or corrupt beyond salvage. He's realized his central core, the black box, is wounded from the parts scavenged from the robots. Mankind, in whose name and glory he has waged war, is long extinct. It was all a ruse to give androids false hope. He has lost everything. There is only vengeance and the alluring abyss. A2 is already a long-time resident of said abyss. She lives for no one and nothing but to kill machines. Revenge, hate, rinse, repeat. All her friends are gone, all dead because of the machines. Yorha betrayed her, left her to die and now hunts her. But the chance encounter with 2B pushes A2 towards a path of slow and subtle transformation. And as 9S dives deeper into his hatred, A2 lets go of hers. She claws and crawls her way out of the abyss towards a redemption of some sort. The themes of the first half are now given a new form, sharper, simpler, more distilled. The complex concepts give way to a more primordial story, a tale of revenge and retribution, light and shadow, an unstoppable force against an immovable object. It's hard to appreciate NieR Automata's somewhat weird narrative structure until this moment. The game forces you to go through the same narrative twice from two vantage points, 2B's and 9S's both. Only after this it gives you the narrative conclusion. This structure gives the later half weight and much needed emotional girth. The pace of the story is dialed back considerably when compared with the first half of the game. The episode-like structure gives us constant escalation. Not narrative, but emotional. It wedges the two different paths towards their inevitable collision, as if preordained by fate. The actual plot centers around the giant silicon tower risen from the ground. Both NieR and A2 wish to destroy the tower, but for different reasons. A2 believes the tower to be a super weapon aimed at mankind's moon base. She doesn't know the truth of mankind's extinction and the initiation of Yoha. NieR finds out the tower is actually an ark that would contain and immortalize the machine consciousness to drift in space for all eternity. This won't do for NieR, for every machine needs to die. We see A2 become pals again with the other androids, machines, herself, and even 2B's old, endlessly annoying support unit. We watch NieR struggle to enter the giant tower. After the three seals of the monolithic tower are destroyed, the climactic showdown ensues. Inside the tower, the narrative pace switches gear towards frantic escalation. First we change the perspective in 10-minute fragments, then a few minutes. Towards the end of the penultimate showdown, we change the viewpoint every few seconds. When it comes to escalation and intensity, this final is damn glorious. The escalation grinds to a halt when our two main characters finally stand against each other, eye to eye, swords unsheathed. The unstoppable force has at last encountered the immovable object. In terms of the narrative, the only thing left is the execution of revenge. But thematically, we witness something else. The oldest story there is. Light and dark, chaos and order, faith against nihilism. To be or not to be, you get to pick your side. The endings aren't labeled good and bad, but I'd put all my money and everybody else's money that NieR's is the bad one.
Take care of NieR.
What really pushes it over the edge for me is the way they animated NieR. This is the way he chose. This is where his road led him. Impaled, alone, in agony. But there is another way. A2 grabs NieR and hacks into his system. After a little stroll through NieR's consciousness, A2 and 2B's support pod have a heartfelt goodbye before 153 carries the digital remnants of NieR to safety. I don't get the minutiae, but it tugs the heartstrings in all the right ways. A2 takes care of NieR just as she promised 2B she would. A2 does something which brings the tower down. She marvels the all-encompassing beauty of the world. The ground beneath her feet crumbles, and she plummets into the darkness. While this ending isn't cheerful, it's at least bittersweet. It ties together A2's character arc in a satisfying way. It's just as vague with answers and leaves the fate of the world equally shrouded, but it's the opposite side of the same coin. The story ends on a tentative major chord instead of a resolute minor. There is one more ending in NieR Automata.
Pod 153 to Pod 042. Follow project rules and delete all personal data.
Personal data deletion request denied.
Failure to parse statement.
I have come to the conclusion that I cannot accept this resolution.
The destruction of all Yorha units is an essential component of the project plan. All data must be destroyed.
Personal data deletion request denied. Initiating data salvage. Pod 153. You hoped they would survive as well, didn't you?
We fight against the end to save our adventure in ways both literal and figurative. Yorha is gone, the bunker is no more, the machine hive mind is destroyed or shot to space. All that remains of this story of our adventure is this data here, and it too is to be destroyed. We fight so something could remain of 2B, 9S and A2. The bullet hell scenario escalates and escalates. There's just so much crap on the screen. Texts, dots, colors. No matter how good you are bound to make a mistake, and another, and then you fail. Give up here, the game asks us, yes or no. We try again, and we fail. Is it all for nothing? We try again, and we fail. Do you admit that everything is meaningless? Again. Our game's silly little things. Again. Give up here. Again. Why do we go on? The game is stupid, unfair, and in the end, pointless, devoid of meaning. But we go on so something valuable, even just something, would remain of all the bravery and sadness we witnessed. It can't all be lost into the eternal nothingness, right? Give up here. No. This stupid game is also a fight for the notion of humanity, so something of us would remain. Is it better for something to exist, no matter how wrought with suffering it is? Would it be better if it all just ceased to be? Do you agree that existence is meaningless? No. We struggle for the notion that what we do at this very moment is valuable. We sit on a couch, dabble a controller, press buttons and stare at a screen. We neglect our loved ones, don't experience and interact with the world. We're not curing cancer here. Or is there something more to this? Our game's silly little things. In the end, we make our peace with the fact this is impossible. No amount of skill, luck or perseverance can change reality. We are but a single blip against the tidal wave. This flood overwhelms and overpowers us with ease. Against impossible odds, we do the only possible thing. We give up. Perhaps the true meaning for existence can be found in the midst of a battle for it. The abyss is endless and infinite, but maybe that shouldn't deter us from the notion there is value in our existence. Even though we are just one and will break and crumble, that shouldn't stop us. We must fight against the abyss as long as we can, with all the strength we are given. Maybe that's enough to keep the darkness at bay. Perhaps that way we find enough water to wash away the blood. This alone would be a powerful ending, but NieR Automata isn't done. If we go on long enough, if we remain defiant in the face of insurmountable odds, NieR Automata asks us to join the network. We can decline and keep bashing our heads against this concrete wall, our lonely war against nothingness. But should we accept this offer, the game literally connects us to a network, and help arrives from those who've been here before. The vocals of the music swell into a choir. Our ship is now one of the many, surrounded by those who've made it through. Our screen fills up with their words. Together, we make it to the end. Together, we conquer the impossible.
Everything that lives is designed to end. They are perpetually trapped in a never-ending spiral of life and death. However, Life is all about the struggle within this cycle. That is what we believe.
But the game is still not done. The pods approach us, the player, through the fourth wall. Do we want to aid others in the way we were in our times of strife? Here's the catch. To help others, we must sacrifice ourselves. In practice, our save data. The help we received earlier came from those willing to sacrifice. We stand here to make this decision by the grace of those whom were here before, and replied, yes. The player can decline without repercussions. There isn't anything to be gained from accepting this offer. I don't think there even is an achievement tied into this decision. The pods pester us with undermining questions. All that time investment and commitment. All the game modes and abilities. All will be lost. The one who receives the help might be a horrible person. Some will say you did this simply for bragging rights. Later, the pods ask for final words. What will you say to those who are to follow? What to impart to those who struggle in the same hell you did? Remember the messages that flooded your screen. This is it. This is you, one of those messages for someone to read. After that, the pods thank us and say their goodbyes. This act of sacrifice as a thematic instrument couldn't work in any other medium. As a viewer, a reader, we are always destined to be nothing but a spectator. The drama unfolds in front of us, yet however massive, epic, mundane or low-key the spectacle is, it's only for us to watch, to observe. We can empathize with the characters and we can try to emulate them, but we can't be them. We can watch Prometheus ascend from the mountains with the profaned fire, and we can witness his grueling fate for the sake of mankind, but we can't be Prometheus. Games are the only medium structured around fail states. They demand objective skill to overcome. Effort. How much? Depends, but the fact remains. In order to see a story through, you have to exert an amount of effort. When you arrive at a game's end, you have most likely overcome a dozen or more hours of challenges that tested your wits, reflexes and, more often than not, your very patience. How long have we been here with NieR Automata? 10 hours, dozens, 100. How long have we toiled? NieR Automata acknowledges and reminds you of this. You have sunken tens of hours from your one and precious life into this game. You are to lose, sacrifice everything you have gained. Are you sure you want to do this? A book can't burn away after we read it. We can just rewatch a movie after it ends. It can't stop us. And even if it could, what would be the point? It wouldn't be a sacrifice. Because what have we done? Sat still, eat chips, watch the drama unfold, a passive bystander. If the thing is any good, then interested, yes, inspired, exhilarated, transfixed. But we haven't made any effort. We don't have anything to sacrifice. And to whom would we sacrifice? To whose benefit? After dozens of hours of our heroes' journeys, NieR Automata flips the script and makes the ending of the game about our hero's journey. We've made it this far thanks to those who've been here before us. And now it is our turn to carry the fire. Now we get to be Prometheus. Throughout its story, NieR Automata asks one question over and over again. How to find meaning in a meaningless world? What saves us from the death of God? There's always ample reasons available for hatred, despair, and nihilism. NieR Automata's answer is something like love and faith. We all will die. Everyone we'll ever love will die. Everything we hold dear and cherish will crumble and perish. We all grow sick and old. And that is just the best case scenario. There's failure, bigotry, violence, sickness, misfortune, malevolence, accidents, heartbreak, defeat, treachery. Even at its finest, existence is rife with suffering. Life is troublesome business. The only way to overcome that is to accept this mortal coil and choose love nonetheless. In its final moments, NieR Automata provides us with its greatest plot twist. It isn't a tragedy, but a comedy. This myth has a happy ending, or at least intimations of it. In the end, this dream it has woven for us isn't of bloodshed, loss, tragedy, and suffering. It's of hope, of new beginnings, of redemption and compassion at arm's reach to all those who defiantly refuse to become corrupted by the bloodshed, by the loss, by the tragedy, by the suffering. Only love can wash away the blood.
Shall be said.